Hey guys, it's Vandy as well by our Cardfight Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and sorry. This time we are covering DZ set 11, not the final set in the DZ series, but close to the final set in the DZ series as it wraps up the deluxe season. This week I want to feature a total of the blackout leaders, or like blackout leader adjacent more or less. So let's get the start, shall we, and see what we have. First up, we're going to do it with Nannaclir. So we have our energy generator. It is our ride deck crest. You might ride deck is in your ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you ride, put this card to your crest zone. If you went second, energy charge 3. Continuous with attack energy, auto begin your ride phase, energy charge 3. Then add once per turn, energy plus 7, draw a card. You get free 3 energy every turn. You get an extra 3 on top of that if you went second. And once you have 7 or more, you blast it to draw a card. In this deck, we have 2 different cards that end up using energy, so we'll never use that energy blast 7 to draw. But it's nice that we get a free 3 energy every turn, which is useful for our cards that do cost energy. As for our starter, he starts off our gimmick here, and that is one who arrived at Paradise Lucent. Grades will boost 5k shield, 6k base, auto opponent for second, draw a card, not about to free draw if he goes second. The reason why I say that it starts off our gimmick with this deck is because the whole point is to have a bunch of one who arrived at Paradise units in their card name on your board for Nannaclir to activate Stray Garden, because for some reason she is not a one who arrived at Paradise, she is a one who guides towards Paradise, so you can't just call her to the rear guard and activate Stray Garden. I lost a game because of that, I'm just saying that now. So while you're not necessarily required to have Lucent in your deck as a starter, I do recommend it because you never know in the situations where you might have to superior call him out from the drop zone or from the soul and then be able to activate Stray Garden because of that. That has happened once, and that is the reason I won a game. Then we have our Overtrigger and Source Dragon DD of Blessings, Bless Favor. Grades will boost 50k shield, 5k power, Overtrigger, I'm Overtrigger in your deck. If it was add trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of these, give plus 1 for the turn. And if it visited during Dread Check, activate the addition effect, which you get to draw a card, choose one of these, give a plus 1 critical for the turn. All of your former use get 10,000 power, and if your damage on the same number of cards your opponents or more, you can choose a card from damage on to heal it. All around is pretty solid because like every other Overtrigger, when you sack it, either offensively or defensively, you draw and someone gets a million. But if you drove check it, you get an extra draw, so you get 2 draws. Someone gets a critical, either the Vanguard thing you're giving a million to. Your front row gets 10k, so if your opponent won to pass the Vanguard, you don't even need to put the million on it. You can just put the million on someone else, give the 10k from the front row, and it still breaks through. And even possibly get a heal out of it as well. I love this before, and it's my favorite Overtrigger because it has so many different effects that activate once you do sack it. It doesn't guarantee you the win when you see it, but it definitely makes it a lot harder for your opponent to pull off a win once you have it. Then we have our normal triggers, 3 copies of Frenzied Harris, grades will boost 50k shield, 4k power, contains guard circle, opponent's vanguards are grade 3 regard, 5,000 to the shield, so she's a 20k shield. She's a front trigger, so she has 10k to the front row. I like to be super aggressive. This deck is a reflection of that, meaning we run 3 fronts, 8 crit, 4 of them being Aspiring Main Alana, grades will boost 50k shield, 4k power, auto rear guard, by that she boosts Shover to Soul, choosing to give 2k for the turn. This deck does have a really solid Soul Blaster who gets stronger every single time it's a skill, and it is recommended to try to use this skill as much as possible. So if there are times we can call Alana to rear guard and send her to Soul, well, there you go. Then we run 4 more crit and Peppery Pepper. Grades will boost 50k shield, 5k power. It's a vanilla crit. Any crit can take this spot. I chose to make it Peppery Pepper because he was the first thing I had access to when I built this deck. And then finally we have Cheery Support Elf. Grades will boost 50k shield, 5k power. It's a vanilla heal. You can make it any heal trigger you want. You can even make the counter heals, but at least with me personally in history, Nannaclir has barely scaved off surviving like opponents' big attacks, and I'd rather not risk like having that fluctuating 10 to 25k shield compared to a consistent 15k shield. On to our grade 1s. 2 copies of Mythical Maiden Alvina. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when she's placed on rear guard circle from the hand other than during the battle phase. Energy blast 3 and perform one of the following. Either choose an order card without Legality's piece from your drop zone and put it to your hand. So it's a way to recycle your really good order that the deck relies on, Seed Milfote. Or she can choose a grade 1 less unit card from your drop zone and call it to rear guard circle. Either way, she's a good grade 1. She either recycles your order, which allows you to extend combo plays or start creating combo plays, or it allows you to extend more combo plays by, you know, getting all of your one who arrived in Paradise units, worst case scenario Lucent, and then be able to activate Stray Garden. She's an amazing grade 1 for that alone. The only downside is that she does cost EB, which Nannaclir also costs, but on the bright side, only her and Nannaclir actually cost EB, and since you only have 2 Alvina and you can only use her basically twice per game because there's no way to bring her back from the drop zone in this deck, and even then she has to be placed on hand specifically, and there's no way to recycle her to hand, she's a pretty good grade 1 for that. Then contains rear guard during turn if you have 4 more use, you get 2,000 power, so 10k base, doesn't require either player to be a specific grade, and that's really good because in this deck, again, like I said before, you want to be as aggressive as possible, and having, you know, really spammable grade 1s that you can superior call off of Alvina after discarding them for ride deck is pretty cool. I'm just saying, this deck comes alive if it goes second because it just gets to bully your opponent's grade 1 Vanguard with consistently a full board of grade 1s. It's basically Leonord on steroids. And then we have 4 copies of one who arrived at Paradise Florist. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, 8k base. I love like how this card looks. Like from the flowers to the wings to the starry background, even to the hair. I love this unit. So grade 1 boost 5k shield, 8k base. Auto Drop Zone, if you do not have a copy of this on your board, reduce this cost by Soul Blast 1. When your grade 3 or greater Vanguard of Nannaclir is placed during your ride phase, Soul Blast 1, or again, if you don't have a copy of this on board, do it for free. Call this card to Rearguard Circle. Cool. The best part is, unlike every other single card that has a revive skill from Drop Zone, it doesn't require you not to have a copy to get it to board. You just get a benefit if you don't have a copy on board. Basically meaning if you already have a Florist on board, you can still Superior Call a second Florist if there is one in your Drop Zone, which is useful because Nannaclir doesn't specify you have to have 3 or more different units with one who arrived in Paradise in their card names. You just have to have 3 of them in general, which again, Florist spam is a possibility right there. And then Auto Rearguard, when it boosts, if your ward is a Stray Garden, choose one of your units and you may give it 5,000 power for the turn. If you do at the end of the turn, retire this unit. All around pretty solid because it doesn't retire the unit that you're giving the boost to. So, you know, if you're giving it to like a really good interceptor such as Lee's Feather Dragon, will get to stay on the board and still be used defensively. But at the same time, it also procs for free, doesn't require the opponent to be a grade 3 guard, and can pick any unit. So it can also include the Vanguard in case you want to give Nannaclir a little bit extra buff. 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of One Who Arrived at Paradise for free Lettuce. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Act Rearguard, retire it to choose one a Bloom in Paradise Seed Melforte from your drop zone during your turn, and it gets continuous. This card can be played from drop zone. After playing it, put it to bottom. So basically, it gives your orders in your drop zone an extra use, and be very solid grade 1 to have if your order ends up in drop zone, either because you have to PG fodder or discard fodder because your opponent's putting pressure on you, or you just end up having a copy in your drop zone because you played it the previous turn and you want to use Lettuce with it. You can feel free to do that. And then auto back or rearguard circle once per turn when you in the same column as the unit stands by a card ability. If your ward is Stray Garden, stand it, which means you can have extra pressure because typically the thing with multi-attack decks is you have to pick one attack that won't get boosted and one attack that will. Well, with this one, you boost the first attack, then Nannaclir swings, stands you in front of it, and then Lettuce gets to stand with it. Very solid grade 1 to have 4 of. Next up, we have 4 copies of PG and Honeycomb Thyrus. Grade 1 boost 0 so 6k base, continuing exceptional 4 touchdowns and deck put on guard circle, choose and reads, it cannot be hit to the bow. If your hands 2 more cards, you choose a card from hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing too special about it. Basically, that means if this is only one of the cards in your hand plus on guard circle, you don't have to discard great, because that means be super aggressive in the early game. Basically, spam all of your grade 1s, and then when your opponent does eventually counterattack you, throw down Thyrus, give them the middle finger, and be good to go. Very solid PG to have. You can have Planet Prevent Dragon or Custodial Dragon in place of this because they have the exact same skill as Thyrus. I choose to make it Thyrus though because it came out close to the time of Nannaclir's release. More importantly, unlike every other character who debuted in DZ outside of Kagetsu, Ruka, the person that uses Nannaclir in the anime, is the only person who uses the PGs from the DZ era, again, outside of Kagetsu. Don't know why out of the entire cast it's only those 2 people who were introduced in Season 3, mind you, but I digress from my point, I'm just saying. As for our last grade 1, we have 1 of in the right deck, none in the main deck of One Who Arrived at Paradise Yoltal. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto remote upon by One Who Arrived at Paradise Nocturne, call to Rearguard Circle, and Soul Charge 1. Continuous Rearguard if your ward is a Stray Garden, gets 5,000 power, so 13k base, gets you a free Soul Charge, and a Superior Call as well, so great, it gets you extra Rearguards on board without having to discard a card or, you know, lose any hand cards for it, and, you know, because in the Route to Paradise, it works really well with Nannaclir getting into Stray Garden. Then we have our grade 2s, 4 copies of One Who Arrived at Paradise Weaselin, grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. I love how this paints Weaselin as like some type of forest witch type of thing that has like the blue flame foxfire. I feel like I mentioned this the last time I did a Nannaclir deck profile. Anyways, grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base, continues Rearguard to guard circle. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 guard and Nannaclir and your world is a Stray Garden, it gets 5,000 power. And if your Vanguard's a grade 3 guard and Nannaclir and your world is not a Stray Garden, add 5,000 to shield. The reason why this is important is because Nannaclir only activates Stray Garden during your turn, which means during your opponent's turn while you're still on Nannaclir, it's a 10k shield, whether you're intercepting or just straight up guarding from hand. But during your turn while your world is a Stray Garden and you're on a Nannaclir Vanguard, and you most likely will be, it's a 15k base. Not a bad grade 2 just for all around like offensive and defensive consistency, but also auto Rearguard at the end of your turn. If your world is simply Stray Garden, yeet it to soul draw a card. Basically a better Inlet Pulse. I mean, yes, if you really wanted to, you could generically splash Inlet Pulse into this deck because this deck does consistently get 4 attacks every turn. But again, Weaselin being able just to go to soul without needing that 4th attack, you just have to be in Stray Garden, which is the deck's gimmick. Pretty easy to pull off. It's just a free soul and draw. Who doesn't like that card? It helps get soul for this thing, and it also helps you get hand cards, could be really useful for defensive. So 4 of Weaselin. Speaking of this thing, 4 copies of One Who Arrived at Paradise Lee's Feather Dragon. So great chance of 5k shield, 10k base, beautiful moon in the background, so we all know I'm biased towards this card. Auto in place on Rearguard Circle, other than during the battle phase. CB1 to check the top 3 cards of your deck. Show up to 1 card, grade less than equal to your Vanguard from among them, reveal it, and call it to Rearguard Circle if it's a unit card, and put it to your hand if it's a Bloom in Paradise Seed Melforte. Say, for example, you play this on grade 2. If you see Seed Melforte in the top 3, you can't add it to hand because your Vanguard's a grade 2 and that order's a grade 3. You still have to reveal it before you add it to hand. But on the bright side, you can still call grade 2s, and once you get to grade 3s, everything's free reign, and then shuffle your deck after you call or add something to your hand. And if your world is Stray Garden, you check the top 7 instead of top 3, which is pretty cool. The best part is this thing can be played from anywhere and still proc the ability, meaning that, say for example, you play Leaves Feather, you check the top 3, you call another Leaves Feather, and then oh, you're on Nannaclir, so now you're in Stray Garden because of that second Leaves Feather. When I use that Leaves Feather skill to check the top 7, and who knows, maybe you pull another Leaves Feather and you keep doing loop BS. Remember that set like a while ago where Bushy gave each nation like different set orders? Like they gave 3 nations the ability to give Intercept and 5k extra shield with a set order, and then they gave the other 3 the ability to give boost to grade 2s. Yeah, if they picked Stoicheia for the boost one, this card would be much more broken than it already is. And then auto rearguard when it attacks anything, if rewards in Stray Garden, regardless of what grade your opponent's Vanguard's at, Soul Blast 1, it gets 10,000 power for the battle. 20k swing into literally anything once you're on a grade 3. It's a really great grade 2 for pressure. By the way, as we saw in the anime and also what this deck is capable of, you can consistently get double crit without needing to sack triggers on your opponent's grade 2 Vanguard while swinging for somewhere in the 40s on your first grade 3 turn and then the 50s or above during your second grade 3 turn. So hits like a truck with crit pressure. 4 of. Then our last grade 2 in the deck, one of in the right deck and on the main deck of one who arrived at Paradise Nocturne. Grade 2 instead 5k shield, 10k base, auto roll by a grade 3 card, carve Nannaclir on the card name. You may call this card to rearguard circle. If you call, choose a card from your drop zone, put it to soul, and if you didn't draw a card, there will be times where you choose to draw instead of call. Say for example, the first time I did this was actually on camera against my friend where I chose not to draw, or I chose to draw instead because I had a feeling that the draw was going to be better than the sending to soul, and I was right. But again, you know, if you want to get that extra one who arrived at Paradise on board, you can, and it replaces itself with that free soul charge. So either way, you're not losing a soul, and technically you're making a rearguard out of it because whatever you draw, you can call it a rearguard. It just depends on what you think you need in the moment. And again, it continues rearguard. If you're in World of Stray Garden, it gets boosted an extra 5,000 power, so it's a 15k booster. Not a bad grade 2. I like how this thing's an axolotl. I wish this was the main grade 3 because I like axolotls a lot, but still a very cute card to have. Nice one of right deck. Then we have our last grade 2, one of Protection Twin Cast, so grade 2 Blitz Order. So typically I only throw in Regalia's pieces when I have like a freebie spot, and yeah, this deck has a freebie spot in it. Originally it was Shroud in Darkness, but as I saw with the original build, there were either turns where I would have both Shroud in Darkness and CML Faulty, and Shroud in Darkness you're not going to play unless your board is specifically nuked, and again, Florist kind of hard fixes that on his own. But then not to mention the fact too is that the other times where I wasn't having both of them in hand, I would have neither of them in hand to the point where Shroud in Darkness didn't really do anything. So might as well have something that I can actually use defensively if I need to, because again, like I said, Nannaclir always kind of barely survives by the skin of her teeth. So Blitz Order, Regalia's piece, you can only have one Regalia's piece in your deck and use it as hold of 1 time per fight. Choose whenever he's being attacked, it gets 10,000 power for the battle, and then continuous. This card's auto ability can be resolved even if you've resolved the Regalia's piece ability of the fight. So the Regalia's piece ability is a plus 10k power, and the auto drop zone ability is when your unit is attacked, remove it from the drop zone and choose whenever is being attacked, and it gets 5,000 power to end of turn for the battle for each grade of that unit. This card has been my saving grace in so many different matches, either with Nannaclir or with different decks that I run Twin Cast in, because it can easily block your opponent's attacks, and it can do that regardless of what grade your opponent's attacking you at, as long as you're on a grade 2 so you can actually play the Blitz Order. Like, there was a game where my opponent just hard rushed me, and they also sacked the over, so definitely helped them, but they hard rushed me while I was on grade 2 and they were at grade 3. I Twin Casted immediately to block one of their attacks with 10k, and then that same next attack, I then bound Twin Cast, or remove Twin Cast from drop zone to add more power. When I say next attack, I mean literally the attack after, not the same attack that I first played Twin Cast on. So all around, it's a very great order. You can use it twice technically in the same battle phase, and it helps defend you against like really big numbers and can be your saving grace as long as you remember it's in your drop zone, because I remember there was a game I lost because I forgot it was in my drop zone. So one of Twin Cast, very solid Blitz Order to have defensively if you have any free space for it. Then we have 4 copies of the card I have genuinely come to hate, because so many times back in DZ set 10, this card I needed to win and I didn't draw it, and now there's a card that replaces it essentially. The only reason it's here is because Leaves Feather has consistency with it. A Bloom in Paradise Seed Milfalte. Grade 3, normal order, play for Vanguard's Nannaclir, perform on the following. For no cost at all, either choose a card with one who arrived to Paradise in the card name from your drop zone, call it to rearguard circle, can do a Leaves Feather play like I mentioned, or choose one of your rearguards with one who arrived in Paradise in the card name. Till end of turn, it gets auto rearguard once per turn when it stands. If your ward is Stray Garden, it gets +1 critical, and then regardless, it gets 5,000 power for the entire turn. Leaves Feather's a constant 15k, and then 25k when it swings, maybe 35k if you have a Persona Ride on it. When it restands, it'll be the same number again, except it'll have crit pressure. And then auto when revealed from your deck or put into your hand by the ability of your unit with Paradise in the card name. So either Nannaclir or Leaves Feather, you can reveal it and then draw a card. Not a bad grade 3 order at all. The issue with it is the amount of times that I've like got screwed over by not having this in hand. It sucks, and every time I had 4 copies and I built versions that could search it out and I just never drew it anyways. Just saying, I don't like it for that reason, but thankfully the deck doesn't live or die by it anymore, because we have 4 copies of One Who Arrived at Paradise Belle Noire. When I first saw it was a grade 3, I was hesitant of it. And then after reading its skill, I loved it like death. And then after seeing it in the anime, I also loved it like death. So grade 3, turns out, plus 1 right, 13k base. Continuous rear guard, if you roll to straight guard, gets 5,000 power. See, it's starting to have the Bruce wording now to where if Bushy ever does make straight guard active during both players' turns, it'll be an 18k base during both players' turns, but for now it's an 18k base during your turn. And auto rear guard, when it attacks anything, perform all the following. If this unit stood by the ability of your grade 3 upgraded Vanguard with Nannaclir in the card name this turn, and its critical was not increased by abilities other than by trigger effects this turn, it gets +1 critical to end about the end of the battle put to soul. So it gets you a free soul charge, which looks really well with Lee's Feather Soul Blasting skill, and that's pretty much it, or also Florist's Soul Blasting skill too, but also it gets double crit pressure as long as it wasn't buffed up by Seed Milfalte, and as long as it stood. Great pressure there. And then if you're Ward of Stray Guard and Soul Blast 1 copy of your Vanguard, and it gets 10,000 power for the battle. So a little bit more specific restriction of Lee's Feather, but still a very solid grade 3 nonetheless. Yes, a lot of its abilities basically require you to be in the, actually, the first ability doesn't require you to be in the Stray Garden state, which is actually really important because Nannaclir's ability does not require you to stand it during the Stray Garden state. Meaning this thing is just a double crit pressure as long as you stood up by Nannaclir. So even if you have no other rear guards, Belle Noire basically inherently has double crit, which is great. But cool. 18k base, more or less 28k swing, double crit pressure guaranteed by simply existing with Nannaclir. Like, this card is amazing, but she did awesome with the support card. The only thing that could have made this thing better is if it was a grade 2 and just gave it 5k shield just so it has shield value, but otherwise it's awesome. And then our last grade 3 in the deck, 3 of them in the main deck, 1 of them in the right deck, of One Who Guides Towards Paradise Nannaclir. Something I forgot to mention at the start of this video, the day I'm recording this, October 4th, this is the day that we got like the themes released for DZ, which means Skybound got released, the theme of this deck, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, so continues Vanguard during turn. If you have 3 or more rear guards with One Who Arrived at Paradise in their card names, you don't have to be different card names. You can have 3 copies of Belle Noire and it'll still trigger the effect. Your world becomes Stray Garden, and this unit gets triple drive. Specifically triple drive, so it can be screwed over by the Elementary Sanctum 2 PG. Then Act Vanguard will return energy battles 3, check the top 5, choose 1 card from among them, reveal it, call it to rear guard, so if it's a unit card, or put it to your hand if it's a Blue Moon Paradise Seed Milfalte, shuffle the deck, and then if you call it a One Who Arrived at Paradise unit, it gets 5,000 power for the turn. You can call it anything, but again, with the way this deck is, you're most likely going to call an Arrived in Paradise. The only other times you won't is when you're going to call in Nannaclir, because that's the only option, because the rest of your top 5 is triggers. You'll call an Alvina, and it'll just do nothing outside of a 10k body, or you'll call a PG, and you're doing that simply because you have no better options. More likely than not, you're going to call Arrived in Paradise, who gets 5k, or just add the Order, who then gets you a draw to basically supplement the fact that you're adding a grade 3 to your hand, but still a pretty solid skill nonetheless that you get a free 3 energy every turn, just spend it to get a rear guard. Auto Vanguard, when it attacks anything, Vanguard or rear guard, CB1, choose one of your rear guards and stand it. It doesn't require you to be in Stray Garden, just a free CB1 stand a rear guard, and oh, look at that, Belle Noire who can take advantage of it. The only 2 cards in this deck that cost CB are Lee's Feather Dragon and Nannaclir. The only downside is Lee's Feather Dragon is loopable in this deck because A, it's Stoicheia, so you can Superior Call it from drop zone, still spam its skill, but B, it can spam its skill from being called from deck 2, so this deck can run into a CB problem if you're not careful, but cool. Initiates multi-attacking, gets you either a free rear guard or a free hand card, possibly numbers as well, and basically has triple drive. Mind you, all of this is active while your opponent is at grade 2 as well, so if you aggro your opponent to death going first, odds are they're not walking away alive. I like to think of Nannaclir like how I thought of Leonor when it first came out. If you just throw hands, there's a good chance your opponent just stays down, considering how aggressive you can beat them down, and again, as we saw in the anime, you can get a lot of numbers out of it too with just pure Nannaclir and nothing else. That's it for this one, so I hope you guys enjoy. Our deck is very fun to play. You can just throw hands with pretty much every unit you see here, and then if your opponent does board nuke you, well, as long as you have a way to get Lee's Feather back, you can more or less remake it in an instant. Protection's a really good defensive card anywhere at any time. Seed Milfalte, while very important to the deck, is completely outclassed by Belle Noire, who is basically that card on legs and is 10 times better, who also has an amazing offensive pressure, and the deck has multiple ways to reacquire its rear guards if your opponent does board nuke you, and multiple ways to spam out your opponent in the early game to bully them down to high damage. Without further ado, I'm going to end here. Hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us on Twitch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to your Vanguards.